Are you coming back to school with me? We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson-Wood. I'm your host on Teaching with Board Games, here today to talk to you about Elijah M. Kellogg's Supers. So Elijah M. Kellogg is the author of 3 games, and what's nice about these 3 games is that they're all completely free. He has a website where he puts them out there for people to play free of charge if you wish. If you want upgraded copies with, in softcover or hardcover books, then you can pay for them. There's things you can buy from the site, but overall, the games that he's putting out there are free, and that's wonderful. So I love to see things like that because it makes it easier for people to get involved in games like this and enjoy the fun of the games as well as the learning that takes place through the play of the game without having to invest a lot of money. In this case, not at all really, if you have just a few simple things lying around. So the 3 games he's put out is obviously Supers, the one I'm reviewing today. Then there's also Star Breach, which is the game I reviewed last month, which is a sci-fi war bands or gangs or teams fighting against each other in a sci-fi universe. And then there is the NCO, which is a World War II squad-based infantry game, which is one that I may look at in the near future as well. So links for Star Breach and for my overall view of Elijah M. Kellogg's titles is in the comment section down below. Just you can look for the link there. So as I said, these games by Elijah M. Kellogg are free, and also he's not part of a miniatures company. So anything that he's making is not to try to sell his own product, because really besides the books for the games, there's really no product to sell. So what his games do is they encompass a whole sort of trope and genre and to be able to incorporate and make use of any sort of miniatures you have from other games or from just pieces lying around. Like I said in the Star Breach thing, you could be using like Lego figures. So for the Supers game, when I'm demonstrating how the game is played, I'll show you using miniatures from different games, some of which aren't even from superhero games, just to show you the flexibility and the kinds of things that you could be doing to incorporate things from other games so that you don't have to invest a lot of money into it. Before I get too deep into that one, let me take you to the report card and tell you what I think of this game. So looking at the number of players for Supers, I'm going to give it a B. It would play between 2 to 4 players, I would think, because you're going to be playing on teams. You could be playing a 4-way battle. I think that would be as high as you would go. Currently, there's not really set rules for a solo play game like there is for the Star Breach. But again, life being what it is these days with COVID and everything, I have been playing some Supers games by myself just to get a feel for the game and everything. And there's, as long as you're playing both sides like you want both sides to win, it's all good. It's still fun. No spoilers for the fun grade, but there's no reason you can't play it solo. If you're, just making the best choices you can for both sides equally. And as long as you're having fun, right? Who cares? So, B. For learning, I'm going to give the game a B+. There is no, just like Star Breach I'd said before, there's no sort of heavy-duty learning of sciences or lots of different kinds of math facts and things. But what you're doing a lot of, and you're doing it over and over. So like the big thing is, of course, with any of these games that you're playing like this, the rules aren't extensive, but there is rules to be read, and you are not only just reading the rules once through and understanding the game and playing it. In these kinds of games, what you're going to be encountering is the fact that you will be referring back to the rules a lot. You're going to be reminding yourself, okay, how does that work, and what does this do, and what happens in this situation, because there's some things which are some finer nuances of the game which don't happen all the time, so you may need to refer back to them again, or even with the powers that maybe a superhero has, just refreshing your memory to make sure you're doing it properly at the moment that it happens. So all of those things, just the constant reading of the game is going to be something that you're doing. Definitely a lot of measurement as you're moving your characters around the board. You're seeing if things are within range of you for either shooting attacks, melee attacks, whatever. That's all done in inches, so using a tape measure, measuring, estimating distances, things like that is going to be something that you'll be doing a lot of. And then there's a lot of simple maths involved because when you're making attacks, or a lot of times you're rolling the dice, sometimes you're just even adding them together to add to something else to see if you can exceed a certain threshold. So say, for example, I'm trying to cast a power, and the power has a power level of 10. Well, I'll roll 2 dice, and let's say I roll a 7, and my power level is 3. or my psych power is 3. So I have my psych 3 plus my dice roll of 7 equals 10. So I've successfully met or exceeded that score. So therefore I've cast it. So those kinds of things. But then when it gets into the combat, it gets a little bit more complicated than that. I'll show you what I mean when we get into the combat, when I show you how it's played. But it's these dice rolls are going to be happening a lot, and there's going to be a lot of these calculations constantly being made, which is good for that kind of mental math, just the repetition you need. But doing the repetition happening in a fun way, so that it makes it more digestible, more encouraging to learn. And then, as with anything to do with dice rolls, you're going to find that there's the understanding of probabilities, because if you're casting something and you're looking to if you need you can either attack for this much, or you can try for the better thing, but it's going to be a harder roll, and understanding what are your chances, that whole risk versus reward thing, and is it worth the risk? Comes down to the probability. How likely is it, and what would be the outcome if you succeed? So like I said, nothing really sort of heavy duty in terms of like the curricular learning that you're going to be doing, but it's this kind of thing, this kind of game with these kinds of math facts that you're doing are exactly the kind of thing that got me into becoming a better student, especially in my math skills, which I was very poor with when I was younger. But through this kind of repetition, through the play of games, through the creation of teams, through just using the math constantly in the games, is what made my skills stronger. So that's how I recommend it. For fun, I'm going to give the game an A. I played the game a bunch of times now, just to get ready for this video and to get a feel for it. And as the more I play it, the more I'm really enjoying it. Even though it is, like I say, it's still a work in progress. There's still, I think I'm going to enjoy it even more once they start to come out with like missions and things. Because right now, any game that you're playing is just going to be two teams colliding and last person standing is the winner kind of thing. There's no missions to rob the bank and get away with the loot, or to get a hostage and escape with them, anything like that. It's just simply the brawl, which to me is it's okay, but I mean I prefer having more of that narrative, particularly in a superhero story. So I think my belief is once it goes beyond that, and especially if there's talk in the book about developing a campaign mode. So between having missions and campaign mode, if once those things come into play, I could seriously see this game going to an A+ for me, and me even enjoying it more than Star Breach, which I enjoyed immensely. So it's off to a great start, and I think it's a ton of fun, and I would certainly recommend it. One thing I'd also say too is that with this game, with the team creation, I find it much easier than I did with Star Breach. Star Breach, there was just a lot more numbers intensive. Okay, so many points for this, so many points for this. You can only have so many of these and so many of these. With this game, it's because you have less characters, and just the way that you create the characters is you can have for a basic super, you have 3 powers. And then you have 8 experience points to adjust your statistics. Your move, your attacks, your defense, and all those things are going to be adjusted with 8 experience points. So it's quite simple. So this one might also appeal to some of the younger students out there because of that fact. So for time, I'm going to give the game a B+. I'm giving it a B+, which is a little bit different than what I gave to Starbreach. Starbreach got the B. I'm giving it the B+ because 1, it has less characters than Starbreach, and 2, I think it has the potential to be faster than Starbreach. The game could, reasonably go up to about a couple hours, which may seem like an odd thing to give a B to, but so this is the kind of game, obviously, like being that kind of length of game, you're not going to be playing this isn't a classroom kind of game. This would be something for a board game club or an after-school program, or something outside of a school setting, like the traditional classroom setting. But the nice thing about this game is, 1, it has a very easy stop and pick up again mechanic where you can, okay, we'll stop playing where we're at now. If you can have some way to put it away for later, maybe locked into another room, or if you have dedicated space in your home where it can be left safely, then that's great, because the mechanic of the game operates under these dice, which I'll show you when I show you how the game is played. And depending on which dice are pulled from your container, tells you who's going next. So it doesn't matter when you come back to the game if you don't remember whose turn was it. it doesn't matter, because every time, once a person goes and their turn's over, then you go to the next person, they pull a new dice out of the bag. So as long as when you stop the game, you stop after a player has finished, before you draw that next dice, just stop there, and then when the next time you pick up, you just draw the next dice and you pick up again as you go. But this game is, like I said, so it's going to be faster than like a Star Breach game, because you're only having like a very few characters on the board. Plus, it's really kind of nicely adjustable in terms of how big the games are going to be. So they say you can have like just a game where maybe you have like one super versus one super, or maybe like 4 people each controlling one superhero or super villain or super neutral, vigilante or whatever. And then you have all the way up to larger, grander games. So how much you want to do with it, within the game rules itself, it's more easily adjustable. I like that about it. So that's why it gets the B+ for me. For cost, I mean, the game is free, A+. What else can I say? The game is obviously an A+, because when you give a game away for free, I can't give you anything less than an A+ for it, right? For the cost anyway. And so, the only way it's going to cost you anything is if you get sucked into buying more stuff for it. So if currently there's no available softcover, hardcover rule book, so you can't even buy that. You could be buying the special dice for it, but you don't have to. You can just make your own, which I will show you when I show you how the game is played. Even like I said, use miniatures from other games that you have, or from other toys that may be the right scale or size for what you want to use, and just go with that and have fun with that. If you don't, so let's just say you don't have those toys, then I mean, if you think back to that Raven Feast video I did, and if you haven't seen the Raven Feast video, they had these little, what Raven Feast, which is a Viking game, provided was these paper cutouts, and you just cut out like the rectangle and you fold the tab so that it stood on the table, and then I did my whole armies for Raven Feast out of those figures, and works perfectly fine. So you could do the same thing. This gives you an opportunity to be creative, create your own superheroes, draw them on the paper, and make little standees for them. Until you can find a miniature to properly represent them, why not? So, and then for things like terrain and buildings, you could use like small boxes, or like me, I use my cat food cans sometimes stacked on top of each other like towers. You can always go out and spend more money on terrain, but one link I will put down below, there is a site I found out there called Fat Dragon, and they have templates where you can print out cardboard buildings, like nice tall buildings to look like a modern things, for use in your games. So it's you can really sort of enhance your game by having like restaurants and buildings and gas stations and all kinds of stuff, and they even have little trucks and things you can fold for that kind of stuff, because in the game, obviously with superheroes, people might be able to throw a truck at you. Why not, right? So have those kinds of things out there, just adds more to the game, and really cheap. But for the game itself, like I said, there is no need for you to spend any money on it. It could spend some money, but nothing is necessary, because the game rules themselves are free. All right, let me just take it to the table and I'll show you how this game is played. All right, so what I have set up here, just to give a very quick demonstration of how the game is played, I may in the future do a how to play video for this game, simply because there is no how to play video for this game currently out there. But in order to do that, I would need to have some kind of encouragement that this is what actually people want to see. So if you do want to see it, then leave me a message in the comment section below. Make sure you hit subscribe too. I guarantee if I go over 1,000 subscribers, I'm like about 50 away right now, 48 away, then definitely I will do that for you as my little thank you to going over that threshold. But just I want to give a sense of the dice here, and just some really sort of quick how the combat and things work, because I mean the game's got a lot going on for it in terms of different things that could happen in with the attacks, and then the powers are whole things in of themselves, the team creation. So I'm just using a very simple setup here with 2 heroes, and I'm not even going to go into any of the powers that they might have. I'm just going to go into some of the basics just to show you how the game would work. So like I said, you're going to be needing a tape measure and measuring distances and things like that. So in this case, you'd have an opaque container, and I mentioned the dice before. So these are the dice which I, like I said, to talk about the fact of not having to spend any money, I made these dice one day just sitting down watching a movie, and pulled out a Sharpie and some cubes I had from the dollar store. So I had some cubes, and then I also, like plain cubes, I also had cubes in different colors. So I just made up some in different colors and then some plain. So when I do it now, what I do is I might say, okay, so the ones that are plain are for one team, and anything that has a color is from another team. So you put those into an opaque container, and you're going to draw one out of that. So I might say, okay, so here I have Deep Thing. He's actually a miniature from Mansions of Madness by Fantasy Flight. So again, like I just want to show you that you don't have to use superhero miniatures. This is like some Cthulhu monster from another board game. Now this one is actually from a superhero game. This is from one of my favorite games actually. This is Guardians Chronicles, but this one is I'm just calling this one for here Blue Arrow. I can't remember her name in the thing, but we'll call her Blue Arrow. And she's going to fight off against Deep Thing here. Now we're just going to do like a couple rounds just to show you how things might work. So I reach into the bag. Oh, so we'll say that the colored ones are for Deep Thing and the plain ones are for Blue Arrow. So I reach into the bag and I pull out a plain one. So that is for Blue Arrow. So when you pull out a dice, typically what you do is you're going to be picking one of the sides that you want to activate that character with. There is one exception, but like I said, I'm not going too deep into the rules, so we're going to ignore that one for now. So these are the different things that she could do. She could brace. Now brace would mean that she is just kind of preparing herself for an attack. She's going to give herself bonuses to dodging and toughness, just expecting to take the worst of something, like a hard punch or a shot or something. But she's got the initiative here, so she wants to take it to this one. Then we have Mend. Mending means that you are healing, you're recovering your lost wounds. She hasn't been wounded yet, so this would not be applicable to her. She could maybe advance, so this one is advance, where it has the arrow with the star. That means that she could move and attack, taking a slight penalty for doing the move and the attack. This is a focus, where you just sit still and you do a shot or a power or something, and you're getting bonuses to it because you are sitting still and focusing. And then you have Run, where you can double your speed, your movement value, and then you can have one action, but then it's a higher penalty. And then finally you have Combo, and this is the one I think I'm going to choose for Blue Arrow here. So in a combo, it's showing 3 stars. So remember, the star indicated before was like a strike, a focus. It also is on the advance, has the same kind of thing. So this is 3 actions. You're doing 3 actions with this one, but because you're trying to do 3 actions, it's not as easy. So, but it can work out really well for you if they all come together. So with the 3 actions, the first one's -1, the second one's -2, and the third one's going to be -3. If any of them fail, then your turn, that action ends at that point. So let's just see what happens here with this one. So she's going to shoot 3 arrows into Deep. Oh, look, I've already knocked them down. So to do this, then, what we're going to do, we compare the attack of Blue Arrow versus the defense of Deep Thing. So Deep Thing has a defense of 3. So we put a 3 next to him like so. And then Blue Arrow, she has an attack of 6. Now these attack stats and things are part of what I said in the beginning, are things you add on to them. So as I said, he's got a 3, she's got a 6. But now she, as I said, is firing at a -1 because she is doing the combo. When I do the attacks, what I do is I always use these dice here. These dice, so what I do is the whites are for the attacker and the blues are for the defender. You are going to roll these dice. You're going to take the attacker's total, add it to their attack stat. The defender's total, add it to their defense stat. Whoever, if it's tied, defender wins. And if it's greater, one of them is greater, then whoever had the greater stat, they are the winner. So roll up the dice here. Okay, so we have 6, and we have 6. So this little handshake one here is a 1. So we have, actually, 1 and a 5, 1 and a 5. So we have 6 plus 5 is 11. 6 plus 3 is 9. So that's a difference of 2. So that would be 2 damage, but Deep Thing has a toughness of 3, so that does nothing to Deep Thing. So then we would go on to the second attack because she's doing 3. So now she's getting another -1 to her thing because of the second attack. So now it's a 4 to a 3. Okay, so she's rolled an 8, plus 4 is 12, and he rolled a 12, plus 3 is 15. So because he has successfully defended now, that now breaks the combo here, and her turn would end. So at this point then, we'll clear all that away, we would keep this dice next to her to show that she's activated once, because heroes will have 2 dice each, so they will be able to, she would be able to have a second turn. So if she draws the next dice, she goes again before the Deep Thing gets to attack. So we pull a dice out of the bag, and this time we have a green dice, which belongs to Deep Thing. So in this case, Deep Thing has some choices. Deep Thing, with only a 4-inch movement, is not going to make it to her in order to attack. So he's not going to, well, actually, you have a 2-inch range for the melee. So he could run forward and he could just swat at her. Or he could maybe come over here, he could pick up the chest and throw it at her. Or he could come over and he can try to do a grab attack. So with your actions, you have your melee attack, your ranged attack, and then you have your grab actions. So in grab actions, you're looking at grabbing a character or you're grabbing a piece of terrain, and you're going to test your strength against that thing to be hurling it, to be slamming it. So you could pick up a car and slam it on somebody. You could pick up a car and throw it at somebody. So just there's all these different things you can be doing, and again, not going to go too much into that. So what I would do then, let's say I put this out here because that was always my intention. So he's going to pick up this thing and throw it at her. So with this piece of terrain, so this is a smaller piece of terrain. So this would be called like a level 8 piece of terrain. So with this attack of 6, means he's quite strong. So he would need to roll 2 or above on 2 dice, which is obviously certain. So there, he's got, well, with that, he could have picked up like the biggest piece of terrain, like a bus or something. But anyway, so he was going for the crate, and now because it's a successful pickup, he's automatically hitting her with it and it's thrown, so it comes down to rest there. Once a piece of terrain has been thrown, it can't be thrown again. She now takes half of that, so that was a level 8 piece of terrain. She takes half of, and there's a reference chart inside the book which tells you what each piece of terrain is. She takes half of that, which is 4, minus her toughness of 2, so she took 2 damage. So she was at 9, she would go down to 7. So what you would do is you would indicate that with a dice to show she's now has 7 wounds remaining. And then you go on to the next dice, and once all the dice have been used, then you clear it off and you go to the next round. In the game, there's all kinds of cool rules, like say he did run up to attack her and he punched her, and say he rolled like double 6s. Well, that means now she is flying backwards. Or say he rolled like double 1s and she rolled double 6s, and she more than doubled his attack. Then she like reverses and does a combo breaker and turns the attack back on him. So there's all these cool things that can happen in the game. Like I said, not going to go into it, but the whole superhero theme is really captured quite nicely and simply. Like, I'm always kind of curious about these superhero games. How are you going to represent all of those powers that are out there? And I think it's done quite well, because no matter, like, even Deep Thing here, as a brawler type, still has the ability to do range attacks, because he could just be picking up a rock, he could be picking up a piece of debris or something, or just just something that he can use to throw. So that everybody has a basic range attack. She would obviously have a better range attack, and if I was going to make the full character, obviously her bow would be part of her superpower, and would be doing more than just what she was doing when she was shooting them there. There would be some other extra additional bonuses. But this is, just like I said, just want to give you a very quick sense of how the game is played, with the use of the dice, with the measuring of characters, the whole use of adding this, subtracting this, finding the difference to then apply damage and things. That is the game in its very most basic form. Like I said, though, with some encouragement, I will be willing to do a how to play video and even a battle report video, and we'll sort of take it from there. But that's going to wrap it up. That is, like I said, in a very basic sense, how you play supers. Let me take you to my final thoughts. And that is going to wrap it up for supers. As I said, I just think this is an absolutely wonderful game. I love what Elijah M. Kellogg is doing with these games, putting them out there for free, letting people try them, and it's a great opportunity for people to get into gaming and enjoy it without having to go and take the risks of investing a lot of money into a game which you may or may not like, or maybe you like it but don't have other people who are playing it. So if you buy all the rules and the miniatures and things for it, then it can just be a huge investment that eventually just turns around to you having to try to offload it to somebody else at a much reduced price because it's no good to you anymore. I know that there's other games out there, like in recent years there's been Marvel Crisis Protocol has come out, and it looks like a great game. The miniatures are beautiful, the scenery they're putting out for their game is beautiful, but it's very expensive. And it's that whole chance you're taking of, to buy the game, which is the big risk, and then finding out that either, like I said, A, you don't like it, or B, you don't have other people in your area who are playing it. With this game, you're just playing, you're getting the rules, and if nobody's playing it, then really you haven't lost anything. You haven't lost any money. Maybe just hold off on buying a lot of the terrain and things that you could possibly be buying until you find that you do have that dedicated group that wants to play it. But there's just a lot of great fun in here. And like I said, it's still a game in development, but what I see in here right now just looks so promising, and I'm so excited to see what else is going to come of it for the campaign rules, and especially those scenario rules, to make them more than just like I said, a bashing of heads of battle, where there's actually objectives to be to add some narrative to the conflicts. And I could totally see this being something that I would play in like a games group when schools open up again, getting the kids into it, simply because I don't have to really buy anything, and making the buildings and stuff can be something I can do with the kids. Okay, hey kids, instead of playing today, let's build some buildings. Let's take some pieces of cardboard and decorate them and make them look like buildings, and just have some fun with it that way. Making some tiles for streets on the board and such. There's all kinds of things you could be doing with this. I just think, because it's so low cost, it would be a great way to start introducing some of these young kids to games like that. So definitely something that I am going to be looking to do once schools open up again. And now, if you are new to this channel, then what I'm doing is I'm putting out videos on a weekly basis around topics of gamification, game-based learning, anything to do with games, and as a learning resource to help parents, to help teachers, to help us ourselves to learn about all kinds of different things. Games are a wonderful vehicle for helping us to learn, and I know that myself benefited so much from the play of games from a young age. I just feel that myself as a student, when I was very young, I was all C's and D's on the report card, and really had no interest in a lot of things to do with school, particularly in math, which I was very bad at. But through the play of games, I started to get better, and my interest got stronger, and then I started to improve and catch up again. So, and now as an adult, I feel that I'm quite proficient with my math facts, and my reading is very good. And I as I say, I attributed a lot of that to the games that I played in my youth, and which I still continue to play now. And that's the other thing, people who become gamers become lifelong learners. And that is something that I absolutely 100% believe to be true. So if all this sounds good to you, then please do hit like and subscribe down below. It really does help. And if you have any ideas for games or you might like to see on the channel, if you want to see a how-to play video for this game, because there are no other how-to play videos out there currently at the time of filming, then leave that request. And if there's any other topics around gamification, game-based learning, or anything to do pedagogically with games and gamification and learning resources, online learning resources, please let me know. I love to hear from the viewers. It helps to give me ideas and where I can go to make content which is meaningful and applicable to your needs. Well, and that is going to be it for today. Until next time, I'm Craig Thompson, with your host on Teaching with Board Games, saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school?